Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. In today's video, we're doing a bit of a fun one. I did get a DM on Discord from Joker2132. What is it? 21326. Talking about an old tier list now, because I'm starting my new free-to-play account, which is over on the stream channel. I'll leave linked if you want to watch the daily progression on that account. But when I was in there, I was just looking at the units and what you build, and I decided to go back. Now, this is a screenshot that I took from Lord Chaotic. He was one of the first AFK Arena YouTubers. He made a very early tier list. As you can see up the top there, we don't even have Hypergenes in the game yet. All that's there is Athalia from the Celestials, so it's a very early tier list, and I just want to have a look at it and see how much the game has changed from what the tier list used to be, because like it's gone so far. When you see God tier, you will definitely laugh. So let's have a quick look through it. Now, fodder, we haven't had any more Legendary Plus tier heroes added to the game since launch. So the interesting thing to me is that at some stage, for a short window, Muriel did actually become very relevant as an early game carry. You'll see over here we've got the level 160 range. Those are going to be like viable Legendary Plus heroes up to level 160 because that's where they're capped. Muriel definitely crept up there at some stage because she just ended up doing so much damage with her Phoenix. But then she soon got power crept with the wish list and stuff like that, because then it became easier to get the heroes you want. And then obviously just everything flowed on from there. So those units down the bottom, what were classified as the fodder units at launch of the game. And once again, if you are a new player, do not look at this and think this is the tier list for the game, please. Please, this is a bit of fun because I found it really, really funny. So, fodder down the bottom there, all Legendary Plus tier heroes. As we creep it up, we're going to see that we do have Savius in there at level 160. Arden obviously was always good in that early game phase. Still now, you can get some use out of Arden. And Verdan was the big one there. Verdan used to be incredibly good up to level 160 because he turned to bats, he'd heal up, he'd be immune to damage, all that sort of stuff. But those three definitely got phased out of the game now. Even Savius, like, you're going to get something to Legendary Plus that's more useful than Savius out of the Ascended tier heroes pretty quick, especially with the wish list. So that's what they used to be. But Savius was like, if you used to go anywhere and like ask anyone, who do I use for my carry, everyone at the start of the game would say Savius, because you could get him to Legendary Plus easier. He had the self-sustain, he had the haste, he had massive single target damage, and he was the man back then. He was the absolute man. But now, like I said, none of them really get much play at all because of how efficient the game is with the wish list and stuff like that. As we move up to tier 3, this is the worst of the Ascended tier heroes. So we had Estrelda, Warwick, the Tree, and Thorin. Really interesting Thorin. Obviously now with the signature item, we have Thorin Cheese. Back then we didn't have signature items, we didn't have furniture, all that stuff. So Thorin was pretty much trash. He just like die, fear them, and then die again, and that was it. So he was useless. Tree, not much has changed there. Warwick, not much either. He's only useful in bosses. And Estrelda, you know, now she's got her little bit of uses in some certain situations, in Gwyneth teams and stuff like that. But overall, that sort of stayed true to the way the game normally was. And then as we move up into the tier 2, I just can't wait to get to God tier. It's so funny. Tier 2, we have Forks. Now, the Lightbearer team was a real big thing at the start of the game. Lightbearers were incredibly strong. They had obviously Belinda and Lucius, who we'll get to in a minute, but they had Forks, and Forks was massive for his CC back then. Like, there wasn't so many good CC options, and Forks was the absolute man in some of those teams. Plus, he had his ultimate, which would remove the enemy's buffs, which was really good for dealing with Brutus and stuff like that. Rain, even in her crippled state, was still seeing some use, and I can't believe that Thane actually got up on there. Now, this isn't like an official tier list either, so, you know, you can argue either way, but hey, tier 2 Thane, better than Estrelda, get around him. Maybe Thane, he had his time to shine, and now he's left. Next up, tier 2, we had Totem Dude and K-Source. K-Source was actually alright at the start of the game because of the lack of other damage dealers there were to compete with him. But yeah, very quickly faded away, and he really wasn't that good at the start. I feel like Totem Dude's gotten a lot better over the time, and you know, he didn't really have, like, his totems were clunky. He wasn't really that great at the start of the game, but he sat in this tier 2. Then we have Sirius and Kaz. Not much needs to be said about those two. Then we do have the Grizzle and the Isabella. Isabella definitely a lot better now than she was. However, she'd still sit at probably a tier 2 even with the upgrades. And obviously Grizzle has become a beast with all the buffs and stuff that he's had. Keep in mind we didn't have furnitures and signature items, so obviously Isabella didn't have her fears and stuff like that. Grizzle didn't have his healing and all that good stuff. So that is where we go to for that one. As we scroll up into tier 1. Now these are the heroes that everyone used because they were just amazing. So the interesting one, like, obviously we had Lucius and Belinda, very, very strong. At the start of the game, you actually got a free Lucius. Everyone was using him. You think early game Lucius is still very powerful at the moment. So he was definitely pretty good back then. And then we have Belinda. Now, Belinda was actually a really good damage dealer. Her combined with the Rain, you put the Rain ult on, you get a Belinda ult, she kills something, she goes again, she kills something. Like I said, that Lightbearer team was incredibly strong. And like it took a while for that to phase out of meta, and now Lightbearers are just trash. Then we have Verk and Screg. So Screg, my man, Screg used to be completely different. He used to have, I can't even remember his skills. I remember one of them, like, it used to be like, his passive used to be, instead of the little Scregs running across the screen, it was like when he died, the Iron Jaw would stomp across the screen on the way out. Like, he was bad back then. I mean, I'm impressed he actually managed to get to tier 2 on this tier list. We have the Verk as well. Verk's always been that weird one that's okay, but not godly. I do like Verk a lot more now that he does have his poison traps, but, you know, Verk, tier 1, there you go. Next up, no surprises here, we got the Leica and the Nomura. Two very good units. Keeping in mind, Nomura was like the only source of healing in the game besides Totem Dude or anything with like Life Leech or the tree and stuff like that. So like Nomura was incredibly relevant, and she is still fantastic. Those mind controls, especially early game and stuff like that, fantastic. If you get it to 9 furniture late game, really good on those mind controls still. But back then, like I said, she was the only source of healing, so it was a fantastic pull if you got her. And then we obviously had Leica. Leica's haste has been her main thing all the way through, and the fact that she's always had that haste buff has been the big factor in her always being high tier, no matter what. Now her kit has more, but back then the haste was enough to get her a slot there. Pharrell, obviously, as always, a fantastic control unit, but obviously his skill ups really matter, so the more you level him, the more he gets better. In the early game especially, he's sort of not that great because all of the good stuff in his abilities come with skill ups. And then we had Athalia, who was the only Celestial in the game. There was no Hypergeans, and she was just incredibly strong. Her damage scaled so well compared to anything else at the start of the game. And she just sniped things so hard. I remember on my very first account, I got a Nomura from my first pull, and I got an Athalia in my first 10 pull. So it wasn't too bad. And as we move on and look at the God tier units, let's have a look. We have Brutus as the god himself, the king of the jungle, the Brutus. And this is, we were talking about this on stream, and then I got this link to me, and I was like, dude, Brutus used to be actually like I think someone in stream said that they because they're an original player, they somehow still get excited when they pull a Brutus. Brutus was the man. Everyone wanted a Brutus. He did incredible damage. He had his raw, he had the spin, he had the immunity, and then he healed up. He just had an amazing kit for the launch of the game. He was your damage dealer tank. He was he had invincibility. He was the man, basically. Brutus was what everyone wanted. He was obviously in the pack as well, the $100 pack that you bought at the start of the game if you were a spender, and everyone used to just buy him and go, look at me, I'm a Brutus, man. And you'd get all the elite plus gear with him and stuff like that, and he was the man. And he really just hasn't evolved with the game at all. Still really annoying to fight against in campaign, but that's about it. And then we do have the Tassie in there. Obviously, Tassie's control. Tassie's always been godly, and she always will be godly. She used to be a fantastic pseudo tank, which she still can do, but back then she was an amazing pseudo tank where you put her in the front, take a couple hits, she'd teleport away, and then she'd keep going. She's absolutely fantastic. And then we had the queen of the game, which was Shamira. Everyone wanted to get Shamiras, and Brutus because Chimera was the main, like when you look at the other damage dealing options, like from the launch of the game, obviously now we have Aioli, we have Damon, we have stuff like that. But when you look at the other damage dealing options in there, you can see why everyone was like Savius and then Chimera. If you didn't have Chimera copies, you build Savius until you got the Chimera copies, and then you would build Chimera, because they were the only carries in the game effectively where you could power level them and actually carry, along with Vidan as well. They were the only ones that could actually sustain themselves and deal damage at like, you know, a 40 level advancement on the rest of your team. So I just thought this was a bit of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed a look at it. If you're a newer player, this is like sort of like the launch roster, which was, it's amazing how far the game has come, but I just had to put it in there when I saw Brutus in the God tier. I was like, yeah, this deserves a look. But anyway, guys, thankfully, the game has evolved a lot from now. However, the Brutus, the Chimera, I would love to see them get some work, become more relevant again. Like I said, Chimera's completely fallen off. Brutus, to be fair, is still niche, very useful, very powerful in multi-teams to have that one invincibility in the front row. He's just not as amazing as he was. So I think Brutus is okay. He still gets plenty of use. His raw for stopping enemies dodging is fantastic, but Chimera needs some love. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on this tier list, especially if you played at the launch of the game. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.